forgotten or disregarded for his efforts, which were tremendous, due to discrimination. Now, a few years back, President Obama gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. But yesterday, the George Wolfe-directed and Julian Lease and Dustin Lance Black-written film Rustin launched globally on Netflix. Starring the likes of the great Jeffrey Wright and Chris Rock, the Barack Obama and Michelle Obama produced film is wonderfully and inspirationally led by Colman Domingo, and it brings Rustin's genius and courage to a new generation, and it sheds new light on a history many of us thought we knew so well. Colman is here, as is a true American icon, and the composer of the film's Bachman soundtrack, a man who has played with Dizzy Gillespie, Sting, Public Enemy, and many, many more, Mr. Branford Marsalis. And Mr. Colman Domingo. And you are there, my friend. Now, before we start, we're going to show a clip. We're also going to point out that Colman did wear a sweater today. If some of you hadn't caught him on the Tonight Show earlier this week, you will see that he can really swing it. But without further ado, let's take a look at Rustin.
This character, storyline, and George surrounded me with, George C. Wolfe, our director, he surrounded me with every single beautiful actor, department head, costume design, sound, you name it, to actually get it's all a part of Rustin, actually. It's all, even that's what the music, that's what when I say it, it feels propulsive and really about the way his mind works. I think I love the score because it feels buoyant, it feels rich, it feels like alive and full of hope and possibility.
What do I mean by that? See when you're running down the
it feels, yeah, you feel that, you feel, also you feel a little bit of, when that running scene for me, I felt like some terror in that New York, it's propulsive in the engine, but it's all the psychology of Rustin as well. So I think everything hangs on this central character in such a beautiful way, in a beautiful, nuanced way. So I felt like I had everything I needed to drop into the soul of this man.
You know, as I said in the introduction, I mean, the March on Washington is such an important milestone in American history. But I do think, even though President Obama gave him the medal posthumously, because Rustin died in 1987, that his story is very unknown for a variety of reasons.
Well, the main reason is because he was openly gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though, you talked about perspective, even though in the March on Washington, he's just like two people on one back from Dr. King.
Yeah.
And you see this in the movie, because as you talk about perspective, there's a point where the actor playing Dr. King turns and winks at him and stuff like that. For you, this story, this movie is you. I mean, I have to say, no disrespect, but my man, you hold this thing. Yeah. No disrespect to anybody, like really. No disrespect to Jeffrey Wright and Chris Rock and anybody else either, but really, it's amazing. What was it like playing this role? Because you know that you're about to teach the world something they don't know.
It was,
sorry if that's heavy.
No, it's not heavy. It was a great calling, honestly. I think I've worked as an actor and an artist for 32 years of my career, and everything that I've done has led me to being able to lead this film with the being purposeful and mindful and being gentle and carving out this incredible character who has so much size, finding his voice and the way his body moved, and then really just finding that propulsive engine that he had so much hope and charisma. And he was one of the most incredible organizers and strategists that this planet has ever known. Yet history, put him in the darkness because of he was so full in his experience in the world, and that was a challenge to many folks. But so I knew that this was an opportunity to pull him out of the shadows. I found out about Byron Rustin when I was 19 years old, when I joined the African American Student Union at Temple University. And then I questioned my whole education because I didn't know about him. And so it made me realize I need to interrogate my history at all times and really look at history clearly. And so I get the opportunity to share this man, and not only him, but also characters like Ella Baker and people like A. Philip Randolph, people that I know about, that I discovered, that I think have so much profound, they've given their life to service for all of us in here. And we need to know that. So, and also we need to inspire. I think it's an opportunity to inspire people now to feel like all is not hopeless. We watch the news every day and we're living some very dark times and painful times. But I think Rustin is a clarion call to say, ordinary people can do extraordinary things. All you have to do is do the thing that's in front of you. That's it. Just do what you can do today. Be kind, be generous, form coalitions, rally. The people who organized the March on Washington were 19 years old. You know what I mean? They weren't old, stodgy men. They were young.
It was in opposition to old stodgy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what Rustin did, which I thought, what I love, that's the spirit in which I led this film, was the idea that Bayard took people from CORE and SNCC and SCLC and the NAACP and organized and said, hey, I have a greater purpose, we can come together. So that was the spirit that we had on this set every single day. And I knew it was up to the task because I just had to call in everything I've learned in the past as a supportive player, as someone, a child of the theater, as a circus performer as well. Yeah, knowing you didn't know that, did you?
This is, and I find this a little hard to believe, and maybe I am wrong. This is the first time you were #1 on the call sheet.
Absolutely.
Will not be the last. Will not be the last. And I say that too because we're just going to call this, I know we're going to Thanksgiving in the Christmas, we're going to call this Colman Domingo weekend because you had Rustin opening yesterday, you have Fear of the Walking Dead ending tomorrow after 8 years.
Yes.
There is yes, oh wow, you can say oh wow, that's pretty impressive. There's this thing that Rustin said, and I'm going to paraphrase the quote, don't mind me, it's about communities, and he wanted communities to have angelic troublemakers. It reminds, of course, of what the great John Lewis said about good trouble, and it's an expression that he developed. I feel like that's part of what you guys, that was part of what you guys were doing with this film. You were being angelic troublemakers. And you had two particular troublemakers with you, who we mentioned in the introduction, which is the former President of the United States and the former First Lady of the United States. I know that you I know that they've been involved in some of the promotion of this film. I wanted to get a sense from you, what was their involvement like with both of you? And President Obama and Michelle Obama, they are history and students of history. So they get this, and the president gave him the medal. So what was it like for that and their part in this film for you guys? That's a very long question, I know.
There's one moment in particular, because we did film this during COVID, and they got us all on a Zoom, and that's just a remarkable thing. We were waiting on a Zoom and waiting for President Obama, Michelle Obama to show up. And you're just so excited about what's going to happen on the Zoom, and the entire cast is on there. And they get on, and he's like, well, Colman, how are you? I'm like,
oh my God, really?
I'm fine.
We've just had the viral moment at this year's Contenders is Colman Domingo doing Barack Obama.
You know what I mean? But it was so beautiful because they were just very concerned about making sure our well-being, trusting we're going to get through this, because we had, of course, COVID, stop and starts here and there, and they're like, we're really going to get through this. I want you to stay healthy. I want you to, really look after each other and just know that, remember why we're doing this, all right? All right, Colman? I'll see you out there on the trail, right? Absolutely, Mr. President.
I did not know the former president would be joining us as a guest today as well.
Well, of course, yeah, he's always here. He's always here, I think,
This film debuted, I want to say yesterday, it's kind of earlier because Netflix debuts at midnight. This is a global film. That's the advantage of a platform like Netflix presents. People used to say that black stories don't translate. And I think that that's long since been proven untrue in many, many different ways. How do you think this film is perceived by people outside of America and what it tells them about America?
To me, it's not a black story. It's a human story. And black folks are in it. And so, we all have shows that we watched as kids that were truly black shows, and I'm pretty sure they would not translate well in France or Italy or Germany, but this is just a story. And it's just the characters happen to be mostly black people.
I guess what I think is that as he is so little known in this country, and I think that's about to dramatically change. I think that he is so, I think he's almost unknown to the rest of the world. And yet this is a man who literally changed the world.
Yeah, I know, but it's a great script. The acting is fantastic. The film is just a great film. And it's not one of those films that turns into a heavy-handed documentary that bangs you over the head.
Right.
It's an uplifting story. And people will know about Byron the way we know about a lot of people through movies. Some of it is made up, some of it is true. And we roll with that all the time, whether it's villains or heroes. You know, that's the power of film. And yeah, I think it is gonna make people more aware of Bayard. It's really, it's timely and it's right.
Colman, one of the things the film does is very interesting, and I know that George Wolfe is not here, obviously the director, but I know that you must have been deeply involved in this. We, besides on the television once, we never see John F. Kennedy or J. Edgar Hoover in this film. Yet they loom over it in so many ways.
Or Strom Thurmond, exactly.
We don't need to see Strom Thurmond.
No one does.
Even people in South Carolina don't too much. But they loom over this a lot, and that's a very interesting creative decision. Can you enlighten us about why? You know, because a million movies would be like, oh, we'll get some guy to play JFK on the rocking chair, and you know, especially at the end of the movie when the Big Ten go to the Oval Office, and Rustin does not.
I think that was such a clear choice of George to make sure it stays within our central characters and the way, you know, they loom above in some way, but naturally he's just dealing with what's in front of him in his world and these coalitions. But you know that the larger of the world, the people who are trying to control and actually just influence or, you know, challenge, you know, what we're trying to do together as these people in all these different organizations, I think that does loom, and it's supposed to loom in that way. But also I would just say that, like, to the point that you say he doesn't go, what Rustin doesn't do at the end, he's not invited to the Oval Office. And that's the truth. Rustin rolled up his sleeves and went out and picked up trash. Because that's actually one of my favorite parts of the film, because it reminds people, it's like, he became more attached to doing the work. He's like, he understands history, but he also knew his gifts. He knew his purpose and his intention. He's like, okay, that may not happen now. And maybe that's not for him, but it's important to just get in there and do the work.
Well, and you see on the eyes of his young staff how they're amazed at this man who's just done this incredible thing. Has also showed. I mean, there's dialogue about it where Roy Wilkinson says, "Come on, you're more than a cleanup man." He's like, "Actually, that's just fine with me with that." And there's a beautiful part at the end of that. I don't know if you remember doing it. Maybe you improvised it. But as the shot pulls back and you see down the stairway of the Lincoln Memorial, and you see him with the bag picking up the garbage, he leans over and shakes the hands of some of the security there, white, black, and many other colors. And that, to me, that scene, which is almost out of shot, was like the humility of the man was so powerful.
I think that was something I found in the moment, because it made sense to me. By the time we shot that was the last bit of shooting we were doing. I had enough underneath me, and I understood, I think, the operating systems of Rustin. And I think that, yeah, every single person is his brother and sister, and they're doing this together. So I know I made choices to make sure that let me take that bag off of this young man, and let me do the work as well.
Well, I thank both of you for being here so much. We really appreciate. Please watch Rustin. And watch Fear the Walking Dead on Sunday.
The last one.
My good friend Joe Utucci is back with our next Netflix panel.